I said to you, I was invited to the wrong house yesterday, it was quite a gaff. What exactly did I just say? Because depending on which side of the Atlantic you fall on, that sentence could mean two completely different things. After living in the UK for over 13 years, I've picked up a lot of British words that either don't make sense in America and confuse my family and friends, or mean something completely different, sometimes a bit inappropriate. My name is Edinger, and these are the British words I use now that confuse Americans. Let's go ahead and put a pin in this word for later. We'll be back to it. But so you don't forget, maybe add it to your... Actually, what would you add it to? If I invited you to an event and you wanted to tell me that just so you wouldn't forget, you'd add it to your... Well, in America, you'd say you'd add it to your calendar, which makes sense. I don't think that needs much explaining. But the British variant here is one I have annoyingly picked up without realizing it, despite it making a lot less sense. I was at a Nebula event with some Americans the other day, and one of them, Mr. Whiskus, pointed out that I'd said I'd add it to my diary. My diary? Why would I say that? It's not like I have some sort of diary in the American sense of the word, where I journal about my day, but somehow, by being around enough Brits who use this expression all the time, it has slowly lodged itself into my vernacular without me noticing. And now I'm like, oh yeah, I'll add that to my diary. I don't have a diary! Okay, I might have the British word for diary, which is just what they say for their diary of events. But I don't want a diary! I want a calendar! My vocabulary is changing without my consent. I don't even know sometimes. And now, bish bash bosh, I've got an even dodgier accent. Well, actually, bish bash bosh is an absolutely lovely British expression I use all the time. It just flows off the tongue. It's used when you get things done in quick succession. I like to visualize it like slapping my hands at the end of a project, like this. Bish bash bosh, boom boom boom, and the job is done. Now I say boom because though Americans don't have bish bash bosh, we do have quite a few fun alternatives. My part of the States has its own version, you might have heard of it. Bada bing, bada boom. That does sound very fun. A lot of Americans like myself will shorten bada bing, bada boom to a much simpler boom at the end of a list. Like the video, subscribe, and boom, you're now invited to the community Discord. Link below. Likewise, many Brits will shorten bish bash bosh to a much simpler bosh. The expression itself doesn't have a defined origin, but really blew up in the UK in the 80s as it was used as a catchphrase by a few comedy duos, such as Harry Enfield and also Hale and Pace.
I can say bish bash bosh. Bish bash bish bash bish bash bosh. Bish bash bosh.
Depending on where you are in America, you might have heard bing bang boom. I've never heard that one, but you could have also heard bingo bango. I love that one. Or presto changeo. What links all of these together is that they were formed simply by sound. There's actually a rule in linguistics called ablaut reduplication, and it basically says that when English speakers string together nonsense syllables, they instinctively order them from front to back in the mouth. It's why Australia's ad campaign, slip, slop, slap, always sounded so weird to me. It should be slip, slap, slop, right? Which, to be fair, does sound a bit more like a tagline for a workflow for an AI YouTube channel. Slip, slap, slop. Enjoy, everybody. But hey, that's why bish bash bosh exists and not bish bosh bash. Ugh. And hey, that's also why it's tic-tac-toe and not noughts and crosses. That's what it's called over here. Now let's come on back round to gaff. Or to my gaff, you could say. When I say I was invited to the wrong house yesterday, it was quite a gaff. Americans are focusing on the adjective in the first sentence, wrong, whereas Brits are focusing on the noun, house. Gaff is a fun word I use on occasion, especially when someone asks me what part of London I'm based. Because then I say something like, oh, my gaff's around the East End, around like 30-minute cycle from Big Ben. There's a certain character to the word gaff that means more than just house or home, and its deliberate usage plays off of its prevalence in the working class parlance. Basically, it can be used as a colloquial way to understate your place, like choosing to say the word bog instead of toilet, or napkin instead of serviette. I'm getting ahead of myself. The word gaff used in this way has a few origin stories. For instance, gaff was originally used to describe a fair in the 18th century. Then the word morphed to meaning any form of public entertainment, and then, more specifically, the word penny gaff emerged. A penny gaff was a cheap, lowbrow stage performance mainly enjoyed by the working class. Shows only cost a penny. A pub, or a public house, might have a penny gaff upstairs as a form of cheap entertainment. And, well, over time, Londoners began referring to not just the pub with the gaff upstairs as a gaff, but any old building. Most particularly houses. Gaff in the American sense of the word actually comes from the French word gaff. Who would have thought? It means boat hook. Over time, though, in French, the word began to be used less like boat hook and more like a clumsy act of catching something the wrong way, or a social blunder, a gaff. And this is where the American English word took its meaning from. The original definition of the word gaff is still used in many forms of English in a multitude of ways. For instance, because that long pole with a hook on it was referred to as a gaff, many similar instruments would also get this name. Look at the credits for any big film production and you will see a gaffer listed. He's not a venerable old man, he's the head of the lighting department. Why? Well, traditionally, the one in charge of lighting would need to move around all the overhead lights. Pretty hard to access without some sort of, pole with a hook on it and a gaff. Yeah, there you go. Personally, I like to control the lights around my house myself. I'm very particular. So if some old gaffer used a gaff around my gaff, that'd be quite a gaff. Plus, I'm really particular with my shot, so I'd hate it if he ended up making my shot look skew-whiff. Skew-whiff, like pretty much every word in this list, sounds really fun. And it turns out, the more fun a word is, the more I instinctively add it to my vocabulary. I actually picked up the word skew-whiff from my friend Bliss, who hails from the north of England, which is also where this word originates. From the north, not from Bliss. When you're hanging up a picture on the wall, it would be really annoying if it weren't straight, right? Well, that's because it'd look a bit skew-whiff. The first 4 letters of the word should look pretty familiar to you. Just throw an A on the front and bam, there it is, askew.
The house is slightly askew to the panic room.
But where did the whiff come from then? Well, skew-whiff is a bastardization of skew-whiffed, which was a mispronunciation itself of skew-weft. In the 18th century, handloom weavers, particularly those in the north of England, would use the term skew-weft when fabric was out of alignment with the loom, as the weft of the fabric would look askew. And slowly but surely, this expression warped in pronunciation a bit and was used to describe all sorts of things. In the USA, the closest equivalent in energy to skew-whiff came up in my video on American words that Brits don't even think are real. The word, of course, being catawampus. I'll link that video above. But hey, that is quite a niche slang word. It's definitely not your bog standard. All right, so this is a weird one. In American English, if you buy an everyday economy car with no upgrades, no frills, you might say you bought a run-of-the-mill car. Nothing fancy. It's a bit vanilla, you could say. But after living in Britain for so long, I've adopted the more fun bog standard. This is a very new word, all things considered, with the first recorded use being in the 1960s in a motorsport magazine. The most likely origin of the term bog standard is that it came from box standard, as in a motorbike or item that you bought that came in a box without any extras. It came as is. Bog, in particular, is also British slang for toilet, and so by jokingly saying the similar-sounding bog standard, it adds another playful understatement. It's a bit more dismissive in a way. Bog standard isn't quite run-of-the-mill, it's under that. But the thing is, there aren't even that many written instances of box standard to support this theory, so we still don't fully know the real origin. Another theory is that BOG is an acronym for British or German, used in Victorian times as a standard of engineering. But even this seems more of a stretch. In truth, we probably won't ever know the real answer, and it could have sprung up just naturally from its connection to bog without any extra faff. Oh, now faff is a word I use all the time, and I honestly don't know where I'd be without it. There isn't really any good American equivalent for the word, so Americans, if you're looking for a fun new word to add to your vocabulary, this would be the one. I went to a pub quiz the other day with some pals, and Jenny got one of the employees to take this pic of us on her phone. It was quick and easy. It did the job. But I had my camera and my tripod on me, so I set it up and I snapped this photo instead. Was this photo or the resulting B-roll necessary at all? No. In fact, most people there would have said it really wasn't worth the faff of setting everything up. I disagree, but faff in this sentence means an activity that is time-consuming, frustrating, or requires unnecessary effort.
What a faff. That's how you do it. Very lazy. Faff-free guarantee.
Now that's 5-star faff-free service.
The words hassle and bother don't quite fit as they're singular and more about the effort than the minutia, whereas faff is, well, all the faff involved. So where does the word faff actually come from? Well, it started out as a description of wind, if you can believe it, specifically puffs of wind. In 18th century Yorkshire and Scotland, to faff meant to blow in small gusts. Over time, it evolved from describing aimless air to describing aimless people. And by the 1870s, it was showing up in print, meaning exactly what it means today. The Oxford English Dictionary's earliest citation is from a book called Yorkshire Oddities, where a clockmaker is described as faffing about, but never doing anyone a farthing's worth of good. Which honestly is a very relatable sentence. The word didn't really break into the mainstream until the 1980s, but once it did, it really stuck. And it definitely stuck with me soon after I moved here. Also, yes, for the record, we swept the pub quiz. 2 nights in a row now. Yeah! Listen, my team got second, but it's a group effort, all right? If you were someone attending your regular pub quiz and all of a sudden you notice some group of London edutainment YouTubers pile in, you might just mumble to your friend, that's a bit naff. But then again, you might also say the same thing about the decor of the place or the weather outside. The word naff is a super flexible British word that can be used for a lot of different things. It's basically a word that you can use to describe something tacky, uncool, in poor taste, or a bit rubbish. Oh, Evan's new video just came out. Have you seen it? It's a bit naff. It's not the same as bog standard, by the way, which is more like basic or average. I feel like naff is a word that it takes it to another level, like when something's trying too hard to be good and failing miserably. It's naff. The closest American equivalent to naff is probably the word lame, though I don't really know how often that word is being used post me living in the States in the 90s. But naff has quite a unique origin story compared to the other words I've taken on from Britain. It is really interesting that 3 of the words that I'm talking about today, mainly gaff, faff, and naff, are so similar, yet they all come from such different places. Naff in particular is said to have come from Polari, a secret slang language used by gay men in Britain before homosexuality was decriminalized in 1967. And naff was one of its words which was used to refer to straight people. As according to the BBC, naff started out as an acronym for not available for fun. Fun? Is that really what it says? Yeah, I mean, the more astute among you might think that final F in naff might mean something a bit more obvious than fun, but why would the BBC go through all this effort to hide the real acronym of the word? That's a bit naff. The word naff got its big mainstream moment through a BBC radio comedy, so maybe they're forgiven. It's called Round the Horn in the 1960s, which featured 2 camp characters named Julian and Sandy, and they spoke Polari.
Put it down, Jewel. One naff Irish.
What do you think?
Well, frankly, Ducky's a bit ill-to-guard naff.
Suddenly, millions of Brits were hearing these words every week, and words like naff started seeping into everyday speech, to the point where an American who moved to the UK now uses it as regularly as any other words in his vocabulary. It's just a fun one. If you like my words videos and wonder why I don't make them more regularly, well, I'm interested in a lot of different things, but also it's because they require a lot more time on the hob. Hob. Now, this is a word I've not fully switched over to, but it does seem to come out of my mouth when it wants to. The word I usually default to when I'm cooking is the more American word stove, which is a shortening of stovetop. And I've also heard Americans call it a range and a burner. In fact, I still use the more American idiom, I'll put it on the back burner, whenever I need to deprioritize something, even though I would never normally use the word burner to refer to a stove. Burners here in the UK are sometimes referred to as rings. I've not heard anyone say that, but supposedly that's a thing. I would hate it, but also, I respect it. But the whole device in the UK isn't even called an oven or a stove, it's called a cooker. I guess that makes sense. But more interestingly, the hot area on top of an oven is usually called a hob. Way back in the day, cooking was done primarily over an open fire in a large fireplace. This was called a hearth. But usually, with every fireplace, also came a shelf nearby to keep things warm, which was called a hob. So now I'm going to try combining all of our new British words with some extra thrown in to tell you about today's video sponsor. Listen, we all know trying to get around region-locked content on the internet can be a bit naff at times, but with today's video sponsor NordVPN, it's actually really easy. NordVPN, if you didn't know, is the world's fastest virtual private network. That's right, it ain't your bog standard VPN, it's NordVPN. When browsing the internet in my gaff, I like the added security benefits that come with connecting through NordVPN. My ISP doesn't have a clue what I'm up to. With one click of a button, bish, bash, bosh, my connection is now secure, and now I'm connected to the USA, so Netflix and the like now give a different library for me to enjoy. If you fancy signing out to NordVPN, you don't need to add anything to your diary about it, because hey, right now, NordVPN have a discount on. All you gotta do is go to nordvpn.com/Evan, and you can get a cheeky little discount on a 2-year plan. Plus, maybe some bits and bobs thrown in along the way. So thank you very much to NordVPN for sponsoring. Now, let me wrap this up. Welcome to the outro. So, I went to the London Transport Museum with an American friend the other day, big up Karen Puzzles, and when I saw this in the section for the items left behind on the tube, I pointed at it and went, oh, look at that, $1 million note. Which really broke my brain because they're dollar bills and pound notes. And I've never in my life mixed the two up before, but here we are. My brain continues to be a mess. But thanks as always for stopping on by, and if you want to know any American words I use that confuse Brits like catawampus and conniption, well, you can click that video here. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.
This is called an industry BBC rolls.
Oh, this thing.